Hello to the 7+ billion human beings living around the world, and hola to you, and guten tag. Um, Let me see. Aloha, I know that one. Ni hao. I learned that from when my daughter was little, and she used to watch that. Oh man, I can't remember that cartoon. It was like a little kid's cartoon. It's been years, but like they start the show with ni hao, ni hao. I know as soon as I see the name, I'm gonna be like, yeah, duh, of course. Um, she also watched Dora the Explorer too, but I don't know what else do I got. Ciao, ciao. That's Italy, I think. Um, Konnichiwa. That's Japan, of course. And I don't know. I think that's it. I'm trying to think. What else do I got? What else do I got? Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. Um, anyway, hello to everybody who's listening and who's watching this video. And if you didn't notice yet, I have changed my wallpaper. I'm going to try to do that episode by episode. I dropped the ball the last time for yesterday's video, and I'm actually in the process of uploading it right now. Very strong apologies to anybody who's been looking forward to getting the latest news. Unfortunately, it's not going to be the very latest news, but it's equally as important because whatever they are discussing the day before is going to be just as relevant today as it was yesterday, because it seems like almost all of the news that at least that I'm talking about is news that is being established for hopefully not a long-term basis, but it's usually comprising of announcements of what's going to be occurring for a fairly prolonged period of time. So yeah, even though that you're getting the video a day late, the articles are still very relevant and they are still in the news. So I do pretty frequently come across articles that I've already touched on that I've seen pop up in the search methods that I use to pull up all of these articles that I discuss. I think I have about 10 articles in total this evening. So not as many as usual. I'm going to try to tone down a little bit, and plus the news isn't settling down really at all, but it seems to start getting a little repetitive. They're coming back with the same article, but they're updating it and they're adding new details to it. And if it's important enough, I would like to get some updated details on certain things. And like I've said in previous videos, if you have anything that's going on that I'm not talking about, or if you've seen anything that's going on that I haven't talked about, that's definitely relevant for not just the dozens of people who might end up finding this video in the short term, but something that's just important, period, for anybody to be watching, even if it just affects your state. I mean, I don't know how many people from your state could be watching this, so just whatever it might be, I'll definitely take a close look at it, and I probably will put it out there just for the fact that somebody who's watching this or listening to it just gives me a tip. I'm sure I'll run with it. I mean, why wouldn't I? I mean, I would love that. That'd be really cool. So I did get a comment from someone who actually commented on 2 of my videos, and I think he or she is the first person to comment on any of these videos. I haven't checked today to see if there were any comments up yet, but one of them was a very positive comment, so very much appreciation to you. Let me well, I honestly don't have much time. What I have to do this evening, I have to take the plunge and I have to go to my local grocery store. And I've had a list that's been very slowly accumulating throughout the last week, just those off the wall thoughts like, dang it, I can't believe I forgot that. Well, I guess I'm going to have to deal without it, but the way that they're describing the news and the more that I'm reading into it, it sounds like that Florida will probably lock us down somewhat soon, even though the governor even came out today in his press conference this morning. From what I read, I didn't see it, but he said that he's not ready to lock down the state yet. But he said that it is on the table, and he's just hoping that he doesn't have to use it. And plus, the earlier that I can go out and get whatever I need, it's the fewer of cases that are around that I'm going to be potentially exposing myself to. So in the county I live in Pinellas County, as of today, there's 40 cases. And I did the numbers based on our population. It's somewhere around 978,000 people in the entire county. Estimated that's 1 out of every 25,000 people. And I'm not going to do the math right this second, but if memory serves, I did that while I was on my lunch break. I saw that. I was just checking updates and stuff. And yeah, if my numbers are off, I apologize, but I think it's 1 out of every 25,000 people. So I still feel relatively safe to go, but I'm still going to take the precautions. I'm wearing long pajama pants, and I'm gonna have a full pair of shorts underneath those, and I'm gonna have a t-shirt underneath, and I'm just gonna put a long sleeve shirt on. It's not a long john shirt, but it's definitely like a winter time kind of shirt. It's not thick, it's just really long arms and like really wide wrists. So I'm gonna wear that and just hope for the best when I go in there. Definitely keep myself sanitized. I'm gonna bring a few sanitizing wipes with me in a sandwich bag, so that way everything I touch, I'm going to make sure that I don't pick up anything by accident. But it's a pretty short list. It's like 10 items. I mean, I'm not going to go do like a $150 grocery shopping spree. I mean, that frankly, that's something that everybody should have done about a month ago. It's kind of late for that, even though I'm sure people still are. I just hope that they either have something posted saying that these are a list of items that you can't buy several of, because my hope is that if they have butter, no matter what the brand is, as long as it's not this crazy fancy organic butter or whatever, I want to get at least 3 or 4 tubs of butter. Not to hoard it, but just because the number of cases are going to keep going up. That's my thought. So the longer I can keep myself from going to the store, the less chance I have for contracting and spreading this virus even further. And everybody should have that same mindset. Not the mindset of hoarding yourself for a year or anything like that, but at least to have the ability to get a few of the same thing. That way you don't have to keep going back to the store every week. Because every week you go, you're taking that risk of getting exposed to the virus. So, but I know officially on the news and what the president has said and what other politicians, local and federal, have said, and bureaucrats too, that you should not be hoarding. You shouldn't be hoarding anything. You shouldn't be grabbing vast quantities of anything at the store, because you got to think about your fellow neighbors. So with that thought, I'll probably only get 2 things of butter, just to exercise my common sense, because I don't want to be that a-hole that's up there with like 8 tubs of butter. I mean, that's very disrespectful, I think, and you're definitely going to get dirty looks by doing so. So I would definitely encourage everybody else to exercise that level of common sense. If they have a pallet of water, gallons of water that they just set out there, and there's no sign saying how many you can have, don't be that dude that grabs 30 of them right now. If you want to be that dude, well, if you wanted to be that dude, you should have done that a month ago when nobody really cared. And the most that I grabbed at one time back in February was 16 gallons from Aldi, and the cashier looked at me like I was crazy, like I was stocking up for hurricane season, which still had, what was that, like 4 more months to go. And she even made a comment. She said, "Wow, you got a lot of water." Like, yeah, I got a lot of water. I didn't go into detail. I didn't say coronavirus or anything. I just said I got a lot of water. You know, what can I say? I'm paying for it, so yeah. Anyway, I don't know. The latest with me, the traffic today was definitely noticeably light, and I didn't really pay attention on Friday. I did to some degree, but it definitely was heavier on Friday than it was today. That was definitely noticeable. How thin the traffic was, because I actually left work an hour or a half hour late. I left at 4:30, so it was interesting to see how little traffic that was out there when we were going into rush hour, especially with spring break. I hope that a lot of spring breakers just gave up and went home. And there is some big news about New Yorkers who are thinking about coming down to Florida. So if you live in the state of New York right now and you're thinking about escaping your state to seek refuge in Florida, you might want to second guess that, because or think differently. Maybe consider somewhere else to go, because the governor of Florida has just signed an executive order specifically to New Yorkers. And I'm not going to leave you on a crazy cliffhanger. I will read the details of the article, but what he's saying is that as soon as you arrive in Florida, whether if it's by car or by plane, you're going to be forced to, or you're being legally obligated to quarantine yourself separate from anybody that you're going to be here visiting. So you have to self-isolate for 14 days when you get here, which can be punishable for up to 60 days in jail. And I don't remember the number of the fine, if they gave a number, but that would be in that article. So I don't know. Just the last thing I can really think about that occurred today was that I heard that there's a company we do business with in India. I don't believe it's like an outsourced kind of thing. It's just something that our company does business with, because hospitals, they run 24 hours a day. People submit requests for information 24 hours a day. So to have a company that helps us to process this information, being on the opposite side of the world because of the whole, the whole time difference thing. Since they're on the opposite side of the world, I don't think that it's exactly 12 hours. It's probably like 14 hours or something. But it really helps with our production to have a location over there on that side of the world to help kind of keep our numbers consistent at like a 24-hour a day kind of system, even though that we're only working first shift. It kind of gives the appearance that we're a 24-hour a day company, but we're kind of not. We cheat a little bit, I guess, in the way that we kind of play the clock, and we play the geography of the earth in order to make it look like we're a 24-hour company, I guess. But anyway, what I heard from the world of, or from the country of India, world of India, whatever, but they are having mass lockdowns too, and it includes the area where our contract company that we contract with is located. And everybody is ordered to quit working. I guess the entire city is shutting down where our business is located, and they are shut down indefinitely. It's not like a 15-day thing. It's not until the end of the month or whatever. They're just saying, we're not going to give you a date. Just go home, close up. So I guess that means that, I guess from my point of view, work is going to ramp up for us and for our company. So that directly affected me today. The coronavirus hitting the country of India. So yeah, it's just interesting, like how far and wide this virus can really affect the everyday person. I mean, I wouldn't have thought in a million years that a city in India closing down would have an impact on me in any way, shape, or form, but it really has in a very direct way. I mean, the work of volume that we deal with is going to substantially increase because we're not going to have that location to be picking up the slack that we're leaving them for our overnight hours, which is their first shift hours. So yeah, that kind of sucks for sure. But whatever to get this virus under control, that's really what matters. So whatever sacrifices we have to make, it's worth making just to make sure that we can get through this as quickly as possible. Hopefully the world doesn't change forever because of this situation. Although every day that we go by with millions not working and the economy just worrying more and more about it with the Dow Jones falling, I think it felt like another. I can give the number here. I have it bookmarked. It's like, I don't know what it was, 700 or something. But anyway, I'm going to go into the president's speech first to start off with. He gave that speech this evening. So I think it started only a couple of hours ago, maybe, probably around 6 o'clock, I think, is when they started broadcasting the feed, at least, before he went up on the podium and gave the speech. But yeah. Oh, and by the way, we are not on day 9, we're on day 10. This is day 10 of the isolation of the pandemic. It's been 10 days since the national emergency had been declared, which, again, going back, would have fallen on the 13th, right? 7, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Friday the 13th. Yep, March, Friday the 13th. And yeah, so pretty significant. So that's how many days it's been. I mean, to me, following the news so closely, as much that's coming out, to me, it seems like time should be flying by because of just the mass amount of stuff that I'm just reading every day. But it's really slow. It's crazy how slow it is. I mean, to me, honestly, it just feels like this has been maybe the longest 10 days of my adult life. Just the slow pace. Maybe it's because we're all cooped up inside and there's not really much else to do except kind of rekindle the family around the dining room table and actually sit down and enjoy a meal instead of everybody just mindlessly staring at their screens. I don't know if we're there yet, but hopefully we'll be getting there. Hopefully families around the country are engaging in activities and board games and movie night, dinner at the table, that sort of thing. So, okay, yeah, anyway, so going into the Trump conference, again, occurred today. And let's see, so the bill, it was the big bill, they threw out a number yesterday of somewhere around $1.6 trillion that they were going for, although the Fed had gave them a green light for up to $2 trillion. But it was either late last night or early this morning, the Fed actually came out again and said that we're essentially writing the government a blank check. So no matter how much money that the government needs to borrow, the Fed is releasing. And they gave no cap. They said no limit, which really, really scares me because that's when inflation can go way out of control if this thing gets too bad. So let's hope let's hope we can get this thing under control, and all these spring break college idiots, they get the hell home and they stop spreading this stuff around. So yeah, but anyway, uh, so and a lot of these are comments from the president. So when I read it, I'm not reading it from my perspective, taking notes. I'm actually reading more of what he specifically said. So he stated, in terms of the bill, it hasn't passed yet. It's still in the Senate. They're talking about trying to get it passed as I'm doing this right now. So by the time you watch this, I'm sure there's already going to be a decision. Hopefully it will be passed, but as of right now, it hasn't been. And the Senate Democrats are talking about formulating their own bill. They're saying because they can't get an agreement, so they're going to start from scratch and try to write up something very quickly. But the real reason is because there's 5 senators that are not in the Senate right now. All of them are Republicans, and they're out of the office because they're quarantined for coronavirus. Either they've been exposed to somebody who has it, or they do have it, such as Senator Rand Paul. I think he's the only one, and the other 4 had quarantined themselves because they were around him at some point in the recent past. So, I mean, the critics are saying that the Democrats are using that as an opportunity to try to get some things passed that they shouldn't really be talking about. And the reason that it's been stalled today was because the Republicans brought up that information, to which I have information on. I don't think I included it in these notes, I don't believe. But ridiculous stuff. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. They were talking about, in this bill, they're going to have something talking about unions being able to have more leverage against workers or something like that. And there's something else in this bill that's supposed to, it's supposed to do something with renewable energy, with solar energy, and like I think wind energy was the other one, something like that. Just stuff that has nothing to do with this virus whatsoever. Democrats are trying to just hide things into this bill to get passed because the bill is so enormously large, 1.6 plus trillion dollars. I think what they're trying to do is slip things in there that might help them look good. They're like, hey, look what I got passed this year, because the only thing they really have on their plate right now is impeaching the president and just stonewalling the entire government and most of the people. I don't know. I'm not going to get political on that, but I just thought I'd at least mention that the reason the bill has not been passed yet is because Democrats are trying to slip things into this bill that has nothing to do with coronavirus, which is absolutely insane. So they're getting political about it. So if you're not going to be getting your much needed $1,200 a person check, then you'll know who to blame. I mean, they're blaming Republicans because the $500 billion of this money, it's being allocated to small and large businesses, but apparently the guidelines are not clear enough as to where this money will specifically go. And Democrats are accusing Republicans of leaving this money too much in a gray area where large amounts of it can just go anywhere that they want it to go, which may not affect the workers, but instead it will basically line the pockets of the rich corporate fat cats. So maybe they're right to some degree, but I mean, a bill that's worth this much money, you can't expect it to be all put together in 3 or 4 days, and for it not to be somewhat loosely based on a lot of things. So I mean, if they want to tighten up all of those loose ends, I mean, this thing could drag on for 2 months before they got everything all lined up nice and neat. So I mean, they need to release the money, or if anything, just stick with well, see, even that's a nightmare, trying to just stick to the small businesses and large businesses, because there are hundreds of different types of businesses out there, if not thousands. I'm not talking about businesses by name, just businesses by just, the restaurant industry and the shopping industry and like the online industry. And, I'm sure there's probably literally hundreds of these different areas of business, and they're all going to be affected differently. The grocery business is going to be fine, so they shouldn't have any need to have any access to this money. But it's not actually worded in the bill that a grocer cannot have access to this due to the coronavirus situation. So I don't know what's going on with it, but it just sounds like a freaking nightmare. But the point is that it's not done yet. They're hoping it'll get done by the at the end of tonight, but Democrats, they don't seem to be budging. because currently they're in control because there's more Democrats in the Senate at the moment because there's 5 Republicans quarantined. So now they think they got the upper hand, that they can, have their ways and demand this happen and that happen, pretty typical. But so hopefully we'll see something, but I doubt it. I mean, they already came out and said that they're working on their own bill, so I seriously doubt we're going to get anything done. Probably not even this week. So I mean, if you're out of work and if you're counting on this check ASAP, you'll know exactly who to blame if you don't get that money by the end of this week. I mean, just look to your Congress member and look to your senator. And if you're not working right now, you have plenty of time to flood their inbox with emails. And definitely you can go on, it's like congress.gov or something like that. It's really, really easy to find your Congress member's name, their phone number, their email address. You can actually call their office. You could blow up their phone if you want, if you're pissed off enough. And I hope a lot of people do, to be honest. I mean, if they're bickering about renewable energy and unions and all that crap, I mean, what the hell does that have to do with coronavirus? I mean, this thing has to be strictly about the virus, and that's it. Don't be tiptoeing around other crap. It's insane. But anyway, let me go ahead and move on. I'm going to end up dragging this thing on for another 2 hours like I did with the last video, which, by the way, I am uploading it right now. Let's see, right here. See? Pandemic, Isolation, Part 9, 40% uploaded, 40 minutes left. I hope I'm not, like, revealing sensitive information here. I don't think I am. But, yeah, so it's uploading right now. Hopefully in 40 minutes it'll be up. I clicked the publish button, so as soon as that thing finishes, it's going to be up there. So as I'm doing the video right now at 7:54, hopefully by 8:30ish, it'll be up and available. Not that right now as I'm telling it, it's going to make any difference, because this will probably go up at some point tomorrow. With me going to Publix, I don't think I'm going to have enough time to pull all the stuff together in this video. And have it ready by the end of tonight. I seriously doubt it. If I have time, I'll try. I'll really try, but it's just too difficult for me to be able to do that. I mean, it just gets too late. I have to get up at 5:30 in the morning. It's just, yeah, it's tough, especially when it takes that long for it to upload. So anyway, let's move on. So at the end of 15 days, that is the 15 days. So we're on day 8 right now. That was when President Trump came out with all of those bullet point type things you have to do. Stay 6 feet away from an individual person, groups of 10 or less, or under 10, or whichever it was. And the other guidelines that they were talking about, keeping your hands clean, all that stuff. We're on day 8 since that came out. And at the end of 15 days, which if today is day 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15. So this time next Monday, what he's saying here is that next Monday, a week from today, he's going to make a new decision for moving forward. Do the numbers look good enough to reopen the country? I doubt it, but maybe he might start suggesting that some states who felt very little impact from coronavirus, maybe he might tell them, look, looks like you're not getting much from it. You could probably open up if you wanted to. But he didn't get into that specific. He didn't get that specific about it. But he just said that we'll revisit this in 15 or next Monday in 7 days from now. So, all right. So let's see the medical problem. It's determined to not make it a long-term financial. Oh, okay. So he said that what we're dealing right now in terms of the economy and in terms of the joblessness and all that, he wanted to reinforce the fact that it's a medical problem that's going on right now. It's a virus. It's something nobody could have helped. It's a silent enemy we're dealing with. The entire world is dealing with it. 148 countries. It still stands from yesterday and today. It's still 148 countries, which is, I mean, the vast majority of the world for sure. I think there's 195 countries in total, something like that. So it's virtually the entire world that's dealing with this right now. So, but he wanted to just reinforce the fact that this is a medical issue that we're dealing with. This has nothing to do with our economy. It's not like the 2008 financial crisis where we dipped into a recession for years and years just because the economy just went to crap. So he's just trying to just hopefully lift spirits in people who might be furloughed from their jobs and get them to understand that because this is not a financial problem, once we get this virus contained, we'll be right back up and running again. We'll be back to full power, full speed, and we'll just run right, just business as usual. I mean, the last thing on his plate is letting businesses go bankrupt. And that's the point for the Treasury Department and the Fed working together to unload tons of money into the economy, which I absolutely hate. I hate that. I hate the national debt with a passion. It really irritates me that President Trump has let it to increase, because I was really hoping he would tackle the national debt and start decreasing it, but I guess you can't get everything you want. But so I hate the idea, especially with the blank check. That scares me to death, because I don't want to have to end up paying $15 for a bag of bread in 6 years. I don't want to do that. So, I mean, I hope we're not going to have to go over this 2 trillion number. I hope we don't even have to get that high. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, there was that point that he made with respect to this being a medical problem, not a financial one. And so let's see. In the city of New York, New York City, so far there have been 8 million N95 masks that have been delivered, that are there now. 13.3 million surgical masks have been delivered, and 73 pallets of personal protective equipment have been delivered to New York City. And with regard to the amount of pallets that were delivered to the state of Washington, 36 pallets were delivered to the state of Washington. He didn't go into the numbers of how much of what was in each pallet. He just said personal protection equipment. And during the past 96 hours, FEMA received 6.5 million masks from companies, businesses, communities who have donated those masks. And there was only one company that I can remember that he mentioned, and it was Facebook. I guess they had an overstock of, well, it was their stockpile of emergency masks. I guess they had stowed away in some warehouse somewhere, but they had about 700,000 that they donated to FEMA. So, and he really encouraged, if there's any companies, any businesses, if you know anybody who's got a warehouse with these supplies, to please donate them if at all possible. You probably won't get paid for it. That's not the language that they were communicating with, that they're going to pay anybody for it. Hence the word donation, but they are saying that by doing so, you're doing a great service to your country, and you will save lives by doing so. All right, so the government is working on creating large quantities of chloroquine. I probably spelled that wrong. I just spelled it the way that I thought that I would be able to say it right. Chloroquine. And they are also distributing this combination of a Z-Pak and chloroquine. And it's one of the best medical combinations that they have found so far as of now, and they will be distributing this combination in New York City starting tomorrow morning. And the amount that they have started with so far is 10,000 units. And first thing tomorrow morning, they're going to be rolling out 10,000 units of combinations of Z-Pak and chloroquine to patients, people who are affected by coronavirus, because they think, well, at least the best information they have right now is that this is so far the best thing that we have to try to mitigate the symptoms of those who were affected or who are dealing with coronavirus right now. And sort of in other news, but it's still in the same speech, just after this point, he mentioned that 103 United States citizens flew back from Brazil last night, and he wanted to thank the Brazilian government for getting our Americans back home. And he did mention that some of them were seniors, and it did come from a cruise, I guess, that docked in Brazil. And this is important. So if you're thinking that you're going to hoard supplies, you better listen up, because it is now illegal to hoard vital medical supplies, which includes hand sanitizer, masks, and personal protection equipment. They're vague with personal protection equipment. I assume that means gowns, maybe hats, latex gloves, non-latex gloves, whatever, just, medical gloves and things of that sort. So if you were like that jerk in Tennessee, who stockpiled like $17,000 worth of hand sanitizer with the hope of selling it at this crazy profit, basically price gouging, you might really want to rethink your situation really quick and get rid of what you have right now. And you can't, and the only way you can sell it is if you operate a business, if you have a large amount. And they were very specific about that. If they said that if the government finds out that you have a large warehouse of supplies that fall under this category for vital medical supplies, then you will be charged by the Department of Justice. You will be indicted, and all of your property will be seized. At least not all of your property, but this property that you're hoarding will be seized. So definitely don't be hoarding this stuff. They said that you can keep a a relatively normal stockpile if you're an individual person, but they're saying that if you have vast quantities, and they even use the word warehouse, like if you have a ton of one item that you're hoping to just cling on to in the hopes that you might be able to sell it for a higher profit, well, you're going to be arrested for that, and they probably will find out some way or another. Because right now they are trying to allocate everything, so everything's got a paper trail. So if they find somewhere buried in somebody's balance sheet, God knows where, that 100,000 N95 masks were delivered to such and such warehouse location in Canton, Ohio, back in like January of 2020. Well, if that's you, they're going to find you, because right now the government is they're scouring the country to try to find supplies right now. So yeah, so if you're hoarding anything, you might as well just come clean with it right now and just donate it to your country. You'll be doing a great service. Probably won't make anything off of it, but it's better than going to jail. It's better than being fined tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, we're in tough times right now, man. We're in tough times. So then he gave the mic to Attorney General Barr, who also went into more detail about what I just described. So I won't get into this very much. Maybe I'll just read the words. And he said that hoarding or price gouging is a crime, has been a crime for years, and it will be prosecuted. Health and medical supplies are now officially deemed to be scarce, which means that if you have a large supply that you're holding on to, you will be prosecuted for that. You will be arrested and you will be prosecuted for anything on the list. They didn't show a list. They didn't even hold up a piece of paper or anything, but there is a list out there, and I'm sure you can go to the DOJ's website if you're afraid that you might have something that could be on this list. Just go on the .gov, sphere, and try to find that information if you think that you might fall into somebody who has a high number of a certain supply, and definitely see if you have those items on that list, because right now you'd be breaking the law. And this does not include businesses with large amounts, but people or businesses holding onto supplies at an industrial scale, and they're selling at higher than the market value. They will be prosecuted. So definitely keep that in mind. And then what's her name? I can't remember that lady. She's an ambassador. She's an infectious disease specialist. She's Dr. Fauci was her mentor. I can't remember who she is. She's an older lady. She's on these press conferences virtually every single day. But she went in front of the podium and she said that there were no kids, and this is in the continent of Europe, throughout the whole European continent, no kids, documented at least, under the age of 15 have died from coronavirus. Not one. Zero. So they're saying that's very promising. I don't quote me on this exactly, but I think she said that there was one case where a 14-year-old passed away somewhere in Asia. But as far as kids 15 and under, we're looking really good as far as our kids are concerned. So that should be it's definitely something that I'm grateful for, because my daughter falls into that age group. So it makes me feel really glad. I mean, I hope she doesn't have to go through this nightmare, but if that's the way she goes, then that's the way she goes. But at least she should have a pretty good chance of pulling through this, hopefully. And the same with your kids, if you have any kids age 15 or under. So that's good. And another thing for the rest of us to be grateful for, at least if you're under 50 years old, statistically speaking, less than 1% who are infected has a mortality, or who less than 1% of those in Europe who contracted the coronavirus, if you were under the age of 50, you ended up succumbing to the sickness and dying. So 99% of the people under age 50 survived the coronavirus and made a full recovery from coronavirus. So that's also something really, really good news. So very reassuring. And right now, they are starting to roll out self-swabbing tests that people can do on their own. They didn't get into much detail about this. I don't think you can actually use this kit to determine a result. I think that you self-swab and you put it into a tube and you send it out to a lab or whatever. They didn't go into that much detail. Maybe you drop it off at your doctor's office or something. But what they're trying to do with that, they're trying to limit the exposure that the medical community has with coronavirus. And they're saying that if you can pick up a test, just grab one and go home and self-test and just drop it off somewhere, then a doctor or a nurse won't be exposed to you, and to the point where it's a risk to them that they might catch the virus that you currently have. So That sounded really cool, and they're actually rolling it out this week, so that's pretty awesome. And they also said that all labs are required by law to report positive results of the virus to the federal government, probably the CDC. That's what I would assume. Um, that is going to give way more accurate numbers. Well, I'm sure everybody who tests positive is getting reported to the government just to keep the numbers accurate. But they wanted to just mention that if anybody was thinking about that. Like, are they counting every test that's positive? Well, if they weren't before, right now they're required by law to do so. So that's a good thing. Maybe not a good thing in terms of the number going up, which I'm going to go to right now. But we got to get accurate numbers, people. We got to know exactly where this stuff is. There could be outbreaks somewhere that we don't even know about because people aren't getting tested there yet. So who knows? Okay, so let me go ahead and pull up my browser here. Let's see, new tab. Let's go full screen here. Just quickly check here. Right now, it still says 40% uploaded. What the hell is going on with that? Man, it better not make me redo this. Whatever. I'm crossing my fingers. I know my internet's solid. I mean, I did a speed check just yesterday. It was like 110 megabits per second download. So it's running pretty good. So I don't know what's up with that. Hopefully it just maybe just the numbers froze and it's still doing its thing. I don't know. Usually I set it to upload to YouTube and then I just go straight to bed. I just happened to get this done a little earlier. So let's see here. Let me go to the first article, which would be, well, I'll start with the X. I have it labeled X1. That's my Johns Hopkins map tab that I've saved. So right now, oh man, that's gone up a lot. It's up to 378,287 cases. This morning, when I went into work, it was somewhere in the tune of like 320,000, something like that. So it's, well, maybe not that low. I know it was a lot lower than this. I mean, it's grown a lot since I last looked at it. Where is this? French Polynesia and wait a minute. French Polynesia has 19,000 cases? Oh my God, is that really true? That is a very tiny island, man. That means that everybody's probably infected there. Holy cow. 860 people have died? Where did this come from? That can't be real, right? That can't be right because, I mean, it would be logged into France's number, but hold on. I mean, I don't want to I mean, I got to look that up, right? Hang on a second. Yeah, see, it totals to 18. So that's a glitch. So if anybody freaked out, if you happen to know somebody in French Polynesia, that was a clear glitch. Another case of coronavirus in French Polynesia. The total is now 18 people. And that was today. That was noon-ish on March 23rd, 2020. So that was just from today. So yeah, that giant number there. Yeah, the Johns Hopkins map is glitchy. Clearly, because when I saw that, I was like, that can't be real. So yeah, so they've actually changed the format. Look at this. So they're actually making it more detailed. I'm not too crazy about it because I can't just click on New York because it'll actually give me just whatever pixel that I clicked on. But even if you zoom in, it's all dotted throughout. So if you want to get like an accurate number on Metro New York City, you're gonna have to like click every one of these dots and just add them all up, which kind of sucks. But like Manhattan, New York City, New York is at 12,305. So clearly the biggest number, but you know, Hudson, New Jersey and Nassau, New York. That's not really New York City, really, right? Well, I guess it's basically New York City. I mean, it looks like they're counting the boroughs. But so yeah, it's much more detailed, obviously. So I mean, look at this, man. This thing is everywhere. It is all over the place. I mean, it looks like the United States has chickenpox. That's what it looks like. I mean, it's getting out of control. At least by looking at this, it looks like it's getting out of control. I mean, that's not good. It doesn't look good at all. So, I don't know. I mean, the stay-at-home orders are probably effective. I mean, maybe that's going to have a good effect. But yeah, here where I live in Pinellas County, it was 40 earlier. Now it's 41. So another person was tested positive today. So yeah, It's only getting worse and worse. So let me go ahead and move on to the next article. I think I'm going to pause at 8:30 if I can't get through this, which I seriously doubt I will because I have some other articles to get to because I ramble on too much when I start this thing up. So a Phoenix man died today, I believe. Let's see, this was posted 3 hours ago, and his wife is in critical condition after self-medicating to treat coronavirus. Banner health officials are warning the general public after a man died and his wife was hospitalized in critical condition from self-medicating to treat coronavirus. According to a press release from Banner Health, the product that the couple used was chloroquine, which is a malaria medication that they recommend to not be ingested or used to treat or prevent COVID-19. The man and his wife, both in their 60s, became sick within 30 minutes of ingesting, so I guess they drank it, chloroquine phosphate, and experienced immediate effects requiring hospitalization. Chloroquine phosphate is an additive commonly used at aquariums to clean fish tanks. So I know chloroquine has been thrown out there, but it's not chloroquine phosphate. I think it's something like chloroquine hydroxide or something like that. So clearly not the right chemical to be putting into your body to fight this virus. So they want to get the word out. Don't use this stuff because it will kill you. It has killed at least one person. So quote, given the uncertainty around COVID-19, we understand that people are trying to find new ways to prevent or treat this virus, but self-medicating is not the way to do so. The last thing that we want right now is to inundate our emergency departments with patients who believe they found a vague and risky solution that could potentially jeopardize their health, said Dr. Daniel Brooks, Banner Poison and Drug Information Center medical director. The name of the man who died has not been released, and the condition of his wife, who is currently in the hospital, is unknown. Okay. So yeah, don't be doing that. Don't be messing around. That's not cool. I mean, just follow the CDC's instructions at this point. Canada works to fly thousands home from overseas in coronavirus airlift. Canada is conducting a massive airlift, bringing thousands home at no cost in cooperation with Canada's commercial airlines. As domestic routes are cut back, repatriation flights are increasing, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said in a live broadcast on Monday. For Canadians stranded abroad, we are working with airlines to get people home, he said in a speech where he also issued an emphatic call for Canadians to heed health warnings. In a CBC radio interview, Canada's Foreign Minister Francois Philippe Champagne said that his office had received close to 10,000 calls and 14,000 emails in the past 48 hours from Canadians seeking to come home. He said that it is probably the largest repatriation effort in Canada's history during peacetime. Many Canadian citizens and residents have returned to Canada in the past week, but travel is becoming more complicated. Champagne said that he has had to negotiate flights in countries where there are airspace or airport closures and near martial law in some places. This is the time of year that Canadians usually flee the long, dark winter. Sometimes called snowbirds, they fly to warmer climates where many are now stranded. I'm sure there's a lot here in Florida, but I think if they're driving back home, I know they said like non-essential travel, but these people are from Canada, so I'm sure they're letting Canadians back into Canada. But yeah, we call them snowbirds here, but not just Canadians. We call anybody from an out-of-state plate pretty much snowbirds because no matter where they're coming from up north. Unless you see the occasional Hawaiian license plate, which, believe it or not, I have seen quite a few. It's not common, but maybe a couple times a year I'll see one. Most likely because we have MacDill Air Force Base, and I would assume whoever's driving around with the Hawaiian license plate, they probably came from one of the bases in Hawaii. Just my random thought there, but all right, let's move on to the next one. Let's see here. This is number 4. Okay, so what does the coronavirus do to your body? And this might be where I'll have to stop at because this is somewhat of a long article. But this is everything that you need to know about the infection process. I'm not going to go word for word. I just highlighted some information. I might read a little bit of non-highlighted information maybe, but if you want to go to this article, it's on usatoday.com. Just use a few keywords in this title when you Google this or Yahoo search it or Bing it or whatever people are doing, and you should find it with no problem. It was just updated today at 1 o'clock. Or no, it wasn't. It was updated March 16th. So this was I actually kind of dropped the ball on this. I apologize. When I first saw this article, I thought it was like definitely worth covering, but it's not as current as I'd like it to be, but I still think it's important, and I'm sure it's still pretty accurate because it's not that old. So, and it goes as follows. Let's see, the coronavirus is sickening and killing thousands of people worldwide right now. From infection, it takes approximately 5 to 12 days for symptoms to appear. So in the previous video or videos that I've covered, I thought that people would be asymptomatic for 5 days, sometimes longer, which I guess in part I was right about, but according to this, they're saying it's between 5 and 12 days. Now, this article is a week old, so maybe I just came across something and maybe what I'm saying might be more accurate, but I wouldn't take either one. I would just take it at face value and actually maybe find out on your own, because I'm not going to 100% say that if you've had coronavirus for 6 days, you're just going to automatically be symptomatic, because this right here is saying 5 to 12 days. And then you do hear stories from some people who ended up testing positive and they were a couple of weeks into it and they had no symptoms and they kept having no symptoms until it went away. So, there are those cases too. So, coronavirus infection. According to the CDC, the virus can spread person to person within 6 feet through respiratory droplets produced when an infected person coughs or sneezes. So if you've been following my videos, once again, you would probably know that by now, because I know I've mentioned that at least a couple of times. It's also possible for the virus to remain on a surface or object, to be transferred by touch and enter the body through the mouth, nose, or eyes. And they actually show some interesting visuals. I mean, I think we all know how we breathe in air, but in case you're not sure, and there you go. The virus enters the body primarily through the nose, although it may get in through the eyes and mouth. It might be able to get in through the eyes and mouth because that's how other respiratory viruses behave. It can take, so for fever, cough, and other symptoms, it can take 2 to 14 days for a person to develop symptoms after initial exposure to the virus. So now they're saying 14 days, Hirsch said. The average is about 5 days. So I was right on that. It usually takes about 5 days. Once inside the body, it begins infecting epithelial cells in the lining of the lung. A protein on the receptors of the virus can attach to a host cell's receptors and penetrate the cell. Inside the host cell, the virus begins to replicate until it kills the cell. This first takes place in the upper respiratory tract, which includes the nose, mouth, larynx, and bronchi. The patient begins to experience A patient begins to experience mild version of symptoms: dry cough, shortness of breath, fever, and headache, and muscle pain and tiredness, comparable to the flu. There's your visual there, if you're not listening to this but watching it. Dr. Pragya D, I'll shorten their last name to D, and Dr. Amit Munshi Sharma, infectious disease specialist at Geisinger, say some patients have reported gastrointestinal symptoms such as nausea and diarrhea. However, it's relatively uncommon. Symptoms become more severe once the infection starts making its way to the lower respiratory tract, which could eventually lead to pneumonia. The WHO reported last month about 80% of patients have a mild to moderate disease from infection. A case of, quote, mild COVID-19 includes a fever and cough more severe than the seasonal flu, but does not require hospitalization. Those milder cases are because the body's immune response is able to contain the virus in the upper respiratory tract, Hirsch says. Younger patients have a more vigorous immune response compared to older patients. The 13.8% of severe cases and 6.1% of critical cases are due to the virus trekking down the windpipe and entering the lower respiratory tract, where it seems to prefer growing. Quote, the lungs are a major target, end quote, Hirsch said. As the virus continues to replicate and journeys further down the windpipe and into the lung, it can cause more respiratory problems like bronchitis and pneumonia, according to Dr. Raphael, infectious disease specialist at Johns Hopkins Medicine. And there's your visual. Pneumonia is characterized by shortness of breath combined with a cough and affects tiny air sacs in the lungs called alveoli viscidi. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. I apologize. The alveoli are where oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged. When pneumonia occurs, the thin layer of alveolar cells is damaged by the virus. The body reacts by sending immune cells to the lung to fight it off. Quote, and that results in the linings becoming thicker than normal, he said. As they thicken more and more, they essentially choke off the little air pocket, which is what you need to get the oxygen to in your blood. And the visual, it's showing healthy airspace with airflow, and then this one, it's showing airways swelling and decreasing airflow. So it just basically looks like a clogged up pipe. Airspace filled with fluids. So essentially, drowning in fluid, really. So it's basically a war between the host response and the virus, Hirsch said. Depending on who wins this war, we will have either good outcomes where patients recover or bad outcomes where they don't. Restricting oxygen to the bloodstream deprives other major organs of oxygen, including the liver, kidney, and brain. In a small number of severe cases, that can develop into acute respiratory distress syndrome, which is ARDS, which requires a patient be placed on a ventilator to supply oxygen. However, if too much of the lung is damaged and not enough oxygen is supplied to the rest of the body, respiratory failure could lead to organ failure and death. And there's a visual there for you. Let's see here. Just one sec. Let me wet my whistle. Okay. Vicidi stresses that outcome is uncommon. Vicidi stresses that outcome is uncommon for the majority of patients infected with coronavirus. Those most at risk to severe developments are older than 70 and have weak immune responses. Others at risk include people with pulmonary abnormalities, chronic disease, or compromised immune systems, such as cancer patients who have gone through chemotherapy treatment. Vicidi urges to the public to think of the coronavirus like the flu because it goes through the same process within the body. Many people contract the flu and recover with no complications. Quote, people should remember that they're as healthy as they feel, he said, and shouldn't go around feeling as unhealthy as they fear. See here, and that's it. That's what I got for that article. And yeah, I actually did get through the whole thing. So let's see if I can get enough time just to cover one more quick one, and then I'll pause, and through the magic of pausing, I'll be back almost instantaneously, yet the clock will change, and since I'm going to the grocery store, it might change more than it has in past videos. All right, so let's see here. I think that was number 4. I'm going to go to 5. The coronavirus is not alive. That's why it's so hard to kill. Viruses have spent billions of years perfecting the art of surviving without living, a frighteningly effective strategy that makes them a potent threat in today's world. Let's see here. Okay, so as researchers race to develop drugs and vaccines for the disease that's already sickened 350,000 and killed more than 15,000 and counting, this is a scientific portrait of what they are up against. So there's a lot of information on here. I'll try to be as brief as possible, but this is on WashingtonPost.com. And you can just read the link here and just copy it by typing. Respiratory viruses tend to infect and replicate in 2 places, in the nose and throat, where they are highly contagious, or lower in the lungs, where they spread less easily but are much more deadly. The new coronavirus, which is SARS-CoV-2, adeptly cuts the difference. It dwells in the upper respiratory tract, where it is easily sneezed or coughed into its next victim. But in some patients, it can lodge itself deep within the lungs, where the disease can kill. The combination gives it the contagiousness of some colds, along with some of the lethality of its close molecular cousin SARS, which caused a 2002-03 outbreak in Asia. Outside a host, viruses are dormant. They have none of the traditional trappings of life: metabolism, motion, and the ability to reproduce. Let's see, although SARS-CoV-2 typically degrades in minutes or a few hours outside a host, some particles can remain viable, potentially infectious, on cardboard for up to 24 hours and on plastic and stainless steel for up to 3 days. In 2014, a virus frozen in permafrost for 30,000 years that scientists retrieved was able to infect an amoeba after being revived in the lab. That is crazy. 30,000-year-old virus still was able to invade an amoeba. Once inside a cell, a virus can make 10,000 copies of itself in a matter of hours, and within a few days, the infected person will carry hundreds of millions of viral particles in every teaspoon of his blood. Man, that sounds disgusting. The onslaught triggers an intense response from the host's immune system. Defense chemicals are released. The body's temperature rises, causing a fever. Armies of germ-eating white blood cells swarm the infected region. Often this response is what makes a person feel sick. Yeah, it's not the virus that's making you sick. It's your body's reaction to the virus that makes you sick. And from what I've understood in the past, when you are when you're hacking up stuff and when your nose is running like crazy, that is just your white blood cells in your immune system forcing out all of that dead virus through your nose and through your mouth. It's just like the waste byproduct of the fine work that your immune system is doing. All right, so that might be it. Yeah, I think that's it. So clearly I skipped through a lot of text just because it gets really detailed, but I just highlighted the gist of it. But again, you can go on this website and look it up, and I'll move back up here to the title real quick before I pause this video. Coronavirus isn't alive. That's why it is so hard to kill. It's so hard to kill. So, okay, with that, I will go ahead and pause this video, and I will try to run through the rest of this as quickly as I can, because I assume by the time I get home, I'm going to be in quite a hurry to finish this, because that's kind of the habit that I usually have. Once I pause a video, I want to race through it. Plus, I haven't had dinner yet, so I'm going to have to do a few things before I turn into bed. But until then, I'll go ahead and pause this. I got to prep, get all my sanitizing preparations all ready for when I go to the store, and hopefully everything comes out okay. But we got 41 cases in the county, almost 1 million people, so I'm still not going to take the chance, but I'm just going to be hopeful. So wish me luck, and I'll be back in 3, 2, maybe 1. And flash, I'm back. It is 11:18 p.m. and I did go to Publix, but I forgot that they closed at 8 o'clock, which I missed the window for. And now that it's 11:18 p.m., I was not gone for all that time. I was actually only gone for about maybe 7 minutes, 8 minutes. But when I got back home, I started talking to my mom, who lives with me, and we were just talking about the situation with the coronavirus, and it got into the spending package that they're trying to pass, and I was explaining that to her, and one thing led to another, and the next thing I knew, we're talking about my childhood home where I lived at in Charleston, South Carolina back in 1989 when Hurricane Hugo hit, and we're talking about how the neighborhood was affected, and it just got crazy. So I'm just gonna have to kill it now. I'm so sorry, people. What I'll go ahead and do before I go to bed, and I'm really stretching this, I gotta get up at 5:30. I'm gonna be a freaking zombie tomorrow. My God. All right, so what I'll do. Oh crap! Oh yeah. Sorry. So I can't quite remember where I left off at. Let me just start with the number 8. Boris Johnson orders the UK lockdown to be enforced by the police. So if you live in the UK, or if you know anybody who lives in the UK, they are locking down the country, and there's some information about that. So definitely look that up. UK locks down the country. So you'll find some information about that. And let me see if I can pull up the next thing. I'm just going to whiz right through these really quick because I got to get to bed. Let's see here. Number 9, Justice Department files its first coronavirus takedown, a bogus vaccine website. And there's apparently a website that developed a bogus vaccine because there is no vaccine. So anybody who is dumb enough to go to a website and start buying quote-unquote coronavirus vaccines, I mean, come on, man. But the Justice Department found it, and they took it offline. They gave them an order to take it down. There was a website that was hosting this, and the Justice Department went straight to the website provider and had them take down the website. Now they're prosecuting those who were organizing that website, and there is plenty of information to look into this. And this is on techcrunch.com. I'm sure this is all over the internet by now because this was actually not this website specifically, I don't think, but they did detail this stuff during the president's press conference today. So I'm sure there are a lot of news outlets reporting that right now. And then this is on the New York Post. Florida politician says that coronavirus can be cured by blowing a hairdryer up your nose. Yes, this is true. I watched this video. It's only a minute long, like 55 seconds long. So you can definitely plug this in and you can watch this video for yourself. And it has audio queued up, and they even have closed captioning with it. And he actually says that he has some good information that if you inhale as you have a blow dryer on full blast, and if you inhale as you have the blow dryer up to your nose, that it's going to cure coronavirus because viruses can't survive in temperatures over 135 degrees. And if you inhale this plus or 135 degree temperature plus blow dryer into your nose, that it's going to cure coronavirus. It's absolute BS, people. So don't buy into this because it is completely fake. And he's apologized for saying this. I'm sure he's going to lose his job. This was in Okeechobee County. So Yeah, there you go. It's yeah, again, New York Post. I'm sure it's all over Florida websites, but somehow I found it on New York Post first. And let's go and move on to the next one here. Hit up CNN. See what I dug up off of CNN. Millions in India under coronavirus lockdown as major cities restrict daily life. So India is locking down. I don't think the entire country is locked down, but large swaths of the country has locked down. And I've already covered this with the company that my company is involved with, and you get the idea. But millions, I think tens of millions of people are affected by this, by a stay-at-home order that has been enacted by India. So yeah, if you have any people that that live in India, I'm sure you're well aware of that by now. Let's see here. Oh, come on. I think that's it. I think I just got to my number 10 because there should be this thing here, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is one. But yeah, that's it. I guess that's it. So thank you so much for watching. I'm really sorry that I took such a long break, but that's okay. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to load this up on YouTube tomorrow as soon as I get home from work. And I will be back with the latest and hopefully the greatest news that we will hear for a while, but I don't know. It's just doom and gloom. But hopefully things will get better. I just hope everybody's being safe out there. The only way we're going to get over this is by staying at home. Don't go to the stores if you don't have to. I know it sounds a little hypocritical, but honestly, it's not, because when I tried to go to Publix today, it was already closed because I left around 8:30, and yeah, Publix closes at 8. So I actually didn't go to the store today. But just to reflect pure honesty, I probably will be trying to go tomorrow, but I am going to wear long pants. I'm going to wear a long shirt. I actually found my winter gloves. I actually found them on my way out. They were in a drawer because I was looking for zip ties, and I actually found my winter gloves. So when I go out there tomorrow, I'm going to wear those gloves. I'm going to bring all my sanitizing wipes with me, locked in a plastic bag, a little sandwich bag, and take all the precautions I need to try to get out of there without getting infected with the virus. And once I get back home, I'll wash my hair, wash my face, and before I go inside, I'll turn my clothes inside out. Actually, I'm going to do that before I get in the car, because I already have a trash bag in my trunk that is wide open and ready to receive these clothes. As soon as I get out of the grocery store, I'm going to walk straight to my car, pop the trunk. I'm going to turn all my clothes inside out, drop them in the trash bag, and I hope I'm doing this right. I'm doing it the best way that I know how. But being overly paranoid is better than just not caring at all, because that's how this disease spreads. So just do whatever you can to try to mitigate the situation the best you possibly can. We got to get rid of this freaking thing before it gets any more out of control than it already is. It already sounds like it's past the point of no return. It sounds like the tide has gotten too tall to hold back, and it can't happen. But you know what? At this point, it's about you and your family. It's about everybody being safe during this nightmare that we're dealing with. So the sooner we get rid of it, the better. The sooner that we can get a vaccine, the better. 18 months, they're saying it's going to be 3 times longer, or it's going to be 3 times quicker than any other vaccine that they've ever developed, if that actually happens in 18 months. But anyway, my cat is clawing my carpet, so I am going to bail and head straight to bed. I have to get up very early, so I hope you all enjoyed this. Again, I'm really sorry that I had to cut in like this and just fast track the last, I don't know, 5-10 minutes of this. But tomorrow I will come back and I will do a full episode, and we'll get you all the news you need. And until then, I hope you stay super safe out there. Keep your hands clean, and cough into your elbow. If you're coughing at all, stay home. Obviously, you don't need to be out anywhere where somebody's going to get paranoid and freak out if they see you coughing. I mean, I really pity the person right now who has the flu or who has rhinovirus, because there's a lot of people out there with a legit cold that are way freaking out right now. I mean, how many people out there that don't have coronavirus who think they do just because they caught a common cold? Because it's still, I mean, it's not technically wintertime anymore, but we're at the very, very at the very beginning of spring. Obviously, I just minimized that. I just now noticed that that this video, it's still frozen at 40. So um, uh, I guess I'm gonna have to load that up again. Looks like I'm gonna have to fall yet another day behind. Just nothing but problems, people. So I gotta go to bed before my entire world falls apart. So anyway, thank you so much for listening. Just stay very safe out there, people. And I hope that anybody who's listening here, the dozens of people who might hear this, I hope you'll be back for the next one. And thank you so much for listening.